Hello, welcome back. Thank you for joining me here. We're moving on to a new chapter of the text of A Course in Miracles, chapter 20, which is known as Holy Week. Yeah, very, very interesting. And this particular section of the course is full of metaphor, chock full for our learning purposes. Yeah. And it's very, very interesting. So, wherever you find yourself in your own study of this course, whether you're a long-time student, a beginning student, anything in between, or whether you're just checking this out and you're not a course student, welcome. You're here for a reason, no matter where you find yourself. Part of the beauty of A Course in Miracles, in fact, its genius, is that it is a self-study curriculum. It is universal in theme and it's universal in application. In other words, it makes absolutely no difference what your religious or spiritual background is at all. All are welcome, literally all inclusive, which in the modern world of divisiveness, just like the world as it appeared in the past, full of divisiveness, the world is always full of divisiveness because it, in and of itself, is the symbol of division, separation, and fear. Yeah. So here where we appear to find ourselves, it's refreshing, and I hope you find it refreshing to have a tradition, a thought system like this course that applies to everybody, no matter what your background is or where you live in the world. Who cares? There is no world. If you've never heard that before, that is the central teaching of A Course in Miracles, which the Course, in fact, says. And by the way, in the context in which this statement appears, there is no world is accompanied by an exclamation point. We're perfectly at home in God, where we have always been, always. And what we perceive as a separation where we appear to be separate from everybody else that appears to be outside of us. This appears to be us, and there appear to be 8 billion plus of these things running amok and stressing each other out needlessly, always. There appears to be division and multiplicity everywhere we go. Yet this perceived separation, where we think we've separated from God, nope. And therefore we think we've separated from our brother, and we see each other as 8 billion plus self-sustaining survival units doing battle, doing life. Hmm. This separation that we perceive, that we think happened, never happened, ever. It is in fact impossible. So here we come across this chapter of the text, Holy Week. It uses the idea of Holy Week with Palm Sunday, Good Friday, Easter, and many of you grew up in the Judeo-Christian tradition. So this will be familiar to those of you who did. And there are a number of symbols that the Course uses throughout this chapter. Easter is one of them that's very pronounced, and with it, the crucifixion and the resurrection, which we'll say some more about. And then the metaphor of white lilies. which are symbolic of true forgiveness and the gifts of true forgiveness that we give to our brother and we give ourselves at the same time because your brother is you, literally. Remember, there's no separation of any kind. Appearances are simply appearances. No separation, period. So when you think about Easter, of course, we all think about, and not the Easter bunny and candy and chocolate rabbits and stuff like that, and Easter egg hunts and whatever the traditions are where you live in the world. Not that. We think about the crucifixion and the resurrection. Those are the pronounced images. And here in the world, it's very tempting for us as we identify ourselves with a physical body to see this entire process as about sacrifice, death, destruction, and pain. We tend to focus on a crown of thorns, for example, on nails driven through hands and feet, and all of that drama. And when you look at a lot of iconography and artwork in the world, there is a pronounced focus on the body, on Jesus's body, where it appears to be sorrowful and full of lamentation and pain in a lot of depictions, bloodied, all of that. Well, Easter is in fact a celebration of peace, not pain. That's the real focus. And here in the first section of chapter 20 of the text, Jesus wants us to understand this. It's about the resurrection, which is symbolic of the Son of God's forgiveness on himself. Hmm. How about that? Not about sacrifice, death, and pain, but about life. And it's symbolic of the Son of God's forgiveness on himself. When you forgive anyone or anything, you are forgiving yourself. It may look like you're forgiving somebody else. Here in this world of separation, yeah, that's what it looks like. And sometimes that's what it feels like as well. You're forgiving yourself. Remember, there is no separation of any kind. When we look beyond the surface level to the truth that is, there's no separation. There's only perfect oneness, love. And love is not finite and limited. It is completely abstract. It's invisible. We can see symbols of it in the world, but it is completely abstract and intangible in and of itself, yet it is the strongest thing in our lives. How about that? The most prominent and pronounced thing in our lives is something we cannot see with the body's eyes. It's not often that we allow ourselves the opportunity to pause and think about it, which is why what you're doing today, and the more often we do it, the better, what you're doing today in taking time out of your busy life to pay attention to the message of the Holy Spirit here is very important. It's really, really important, which is why I often pause and thank you for your dedication and your commitment to your spiritual practice. So thank you on behalf of every single living thing without exception. Think your forgiveness doesn't have an impact? Think again. It's more than you imagine it to be. Let's keep doing it. Yeah. We're invited to keep doing it. So Jesus doesn't intend the crucifixion and the resurrection to be all about his body. We're not a body. It's intended to be a symbol of peace, a celebration of peace, a celebration of life, not death. We tend to focus on the death, on the bleeding body with a crown of thorns hanging on a cross, rather than the real meaning of this life. This course is a celebration of life, not death. There is no death. In fact, lesson 163 of the workbook, some of you may be familiar with this, is the idea there is no death. The Son of God is free, which you may find yourself resisting strongly, or maybe not at all. One thing that we must understand as we hear these ideas over and over again is that they are ideas that most of us were not raised with. And they're ideas that many people would find flat weird, and that's putting it nicely, wrong or blasphemous. We get all kinds of reactions from people rebuking us and stuff. If you go about stating that there is no sin, expect to draw the criticism, right? Yet, deep down, we all know this to be true. When you really allow yourself to think about it, so please allow yourself to honestly think about it, you're on the spiritual path because you know there's more to it than this. If you did not recognize that and acknowledge that in some way, there's no way in the world you'd even be interested in this. This course doesn't mess around. Happily, it's a celebration of life, not death. There is no death. Yeah, this comes to an end. Of course it does. Of course. That's not the end. Eternity is eternity. It has no beginning and it has no end. It is outside time. The idea of time is a separation idea, as is the idea of space, that we just have gotten together and agreed is what our supposed reality is. It's not bound by that at all. Time is a separation device. 1 minute, 1 second appears to be a separate entity from the next. 1 century appears to be different from another century. Even right here in the present moment, we've taken this spinning ball of rock and drawn these imaginary lines called longitudinal meridians, and every 15 degrees, again, completely made up, to total 24 little slices of 15 for a sum total. We call them time zones. So we think we're separate from people in another part of the world. It's a separation device, as is the space that appears to be between us. What space? There is only perfect oneness. The idea of separation, of space, time, multiplicity is meaningless. It's meaningless. Yet we weren't taught this growing up. Our societies, our school systems, our families, through no fault of their own, have, well, conditioned us as they have also been conditioned. So it's nobody's fault. Here, you have the opportunity to undo all of this and go beyond it once and for all time, to set all of that aside. Are you ready to do that? Only you can answer yes to that. But when you do, the Holy Spirit rushes in. All our inner teacher needs is a fraction of a second of willingness. Willingness to listen, willingness to entertain these ideas, willingness to forgive, willingness to set our false sense of individual self, the ego, aside, even if it's only for a fraction of a second. If you can manage only that, that is enough. And you've managed it multiple times, or you would not even be interested in this course, which is a celebration of life. So, along the way here, expect resistance. Do. It's worth bringing up often because it comes up in so many ways. I mean, you may find some of these ideas preposterous. You may find this pixelated image on your screen wrong. You may find this course wrong. Pixelated image repeats what's in the course. That's the way that works. This video series is not about someone's interpretation of A Course in Miracles. It's about A Course in Miracles. There is no world. There is no death. The Son of God is free. You're not a body. You know this. You do. You don't have to accept that. You don't have to acknowledge it. In fact, you're 100% free to deny it. We've all been denying it for a long, long time. That's why this conversation appears to be happening in the first place. We need it. So, should you have questions along the way, I'm certainly here to help with that. I'm here to serve as a guide for you. My hope is that these videos inspire you to think about things and to put these ideas into practice, because that's how we really learn the Course. We learn A Course in Miracles by doing it. Yes, understanding these ideas with the intellectual thinking mind has some value for sure. It's nothing compared to the experiential, the visceral level of doing it. When you put these ideas into practical application in your daily life, your experience does something marvelous and very cool. It shows you these ideas are true. It demonstrates to you, proves to you. If you want proof, prove it to yourself. Do that. Want proof? Excellent. We all want proof in the world. Prove it to yourself. There is only perfect oneness. So I invite you to join me. If you have not yet subscribed, that's the prompt here in the corner of your screen. Go ahead and click that icon, and you'll be invited to join us. And several videos appear each week. And again, the comment thread is the perfect place to ask questions. If you've got them about A Course in Miracles, about spirituality in general, or even if you just want to pop in and say hello, I'd love to hear from you. Okay? So thank you so much again for tuning in, and I will talk to all of you very soon.